Welcome, everybody, to the cheerful subject of the conquerors of God's people. We're going to trace the historical developments of the different empires that conquered Israel and either enslaved them, captured them, deported them, and or massacred them. The way in which Israel began to feel like a veritable football. On your paper, you see we have 7 different eras just leading up to the Roman period. So we aren't even coming close to coming to contemporary times. Let's start with the first era that is recorded in the Bible, and that is, of course, the Egyptian enslavement of the Jews back 1900 to 1500 BC. Here's a map showing the proximity between Egypt and Israel and how thousands of Israelites ended up in Egypt, being their slaves, building pyramids, and so on. So we also see on this map, we see a possible route under the leadership of Moses, bringing them back to their home. So you see that icon up around Jerusalem, that little house. That will be on every map reminding us of the homeland that God had promised the Jewish people, the homeland they always wanted to get back to. A few hundred years later, the Assyrians came and captured Israel, actually the northern kingdom of Israel. They were known for their cruel punishment towards their captives. So here we see that light brown outline, the Assyrian Empire at its maximum stage, and right in the heart of it is that little area called Israel or Canaan. 200 years later came the Babylons, and this is the Babylonian Empire. You see on the left there, King of Egypt was able to retain its independence, but everybody else was under Babylonian dictators or rule. It was during this time that many Israelites were deported from Jerusalem and taken over to the town of Babylon. You may remember that Daniel and Shadrach, Abednego, those dudes who were taken because they were smart, they were healthy, they were strong. So the Babylonians took the best of the best over to Babylon to serve them in their land. Also, in the beginning of this empire was, of course, King Nebuchadnezzar, who, at the beginning of this conquering, he destroyed the temple that had been built by Solomon. The next empire that gobbled up Babylon was the Persian Empire. And so on this map, we see now the expansive nature of the Persians inside again of that light brown line. The Persians were known to have more tolerance with the Jews, and under certain leaders were allowed to return to Jerusalem to rebuild their temple. This is also during the time of Esther. You'll remember the Hebrew woman that had been raised in Babylon and eventually became queen of Persia and saved the Jewish people from annihilation. Next, Alexander the Great rode in under tremendous military might and overtook the known land and made it Hellenistic, or saturating it with Greek culture, Greek language, Greek literature, Greek art, Greek architecture. And so you see there in the light brown all of the areas that he conquered and were under Hellenistic pressure to conform, including the Jewish people, right there where it says Hasmonean state, right there. They were being pressured to change to become more Greek or Hellenistic during this period. At the end of the Hellenistic period, we have a dictator, a Greek dictator who was extremely cruel towards Jewish people and was known to massacre Jews by the thousands in Jerusalem and so on, caused such an uproar that the Jews revolted and staged an incredible revolution that gained them their independence in 166 BC. So for 100 years, even while Hellenism continued to thrive, right there within Palestine, as it was becoming known, or Israel, the Jews were able to have self-rule for 100 years. But it didn't last long, for in 63 BC, Pompey rolled in to complete the development of the Roman Empire, which, as you see, circulated around the Mediterranean Sea in that light green area. The Romans were extremely heavy-handed and sought to bring a close to the rebellious nature of the Jews who were living there in Jerusalem and all over the known world. It is into this era of time that God chose to have his son born 64 BC in a little village called Bethlehem, right in the middle of the Roman Empire.